It's time to sit back, relax, and listen to Conversations with Joan. Conversations with Joan will inspire, motivate, and empower you. Live your best life now. Listen, learn, think, and decide. And now, here's your host, Joan Herman.
Welcome to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Lives, Conversations with Joan. I'm Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in. Today's guest, Bonny Meyer, has lived her life set in the romantic era of Napa Valley. Bonny and her husband, Justin, established and owned 2 wineries. They shared the ups and downs of life and business, and along with other prominent wineries of the time, they helped revolutionize Napa Valley. Bonny's story is one filled with deep grief and enduring love. She shares wisdom and advice for living a full life with purpose. Bonny is the principal of Meyer Family Enterprises. She is the author of the book, Perfectly Paired. Welcome, Bonny. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's wonderful to be here with you.
So, Bonny, you created a wonderful life with your husband, Justin, who has since passed away. Can you tell us about your relationship? What was your life like?
Well, when Justin and I met, he was a monk, and we became friends almost immediately through music. I played the guitar, he played the banjo. We started playing together in church, and without intending it, we fell in love with each other. And we spent the next 5 years trying not to be in love with each other, which is really an interesting way to start a relationship. Mm-hmm. And I think that had a lot to do with how solid our love relationship and marriage became, because it started with friendship. Neither one of us ever trying to romance the other. It just emerged. And we ended up just being so attracted to each other that we just couldn't stand it. And that continued throughout our whole time together. So we were married. We knew each other for about 35 years, married for 30.
So how did you get involved in the wine industry?
We met at UC Davis. I was a freshman, and he was finishing a master's degree. As a Christian brother, he had been designated by the brothers to be the future president of Christian Brothers Winery, which was one of the largest wineries in the United States in the 60s at that time. And so he was already in the wine business. And through our friendship, actually, I got to know his professor, Dr. Omo, and ended up working for him in the summers and during school year. He was creating hybrids of grapes and making wine. But I never thought I would end up in the wine business. I never thought I would be marrying Justin. Mm-hmm. So it was actually accidental. I'm an accidental vintner. Uh-huh. But when Justin and I got married, we actually started Silver Oak the same week that of our wedding, the same week we were married. And having been with Christian Brothers, they made 40 different wines. Really, that was really as a result of their marketing department. And he just thought, there's way too many. They can't always all be our best. I would really like to just make one and make it the best one of the best in the world. And that's what he set out to do. And to some people's minds, accomplished. And it was so much fun. Oh my gosh, it was fun.
Your parents were from Michigan and your grandparents worked for Ford. Your grandfather was an inventor at Ford. Did you learn anything from him that you were later able to apply to your professional life?
That's an interesting question. I would say that I think I probably inherited a bit of a renegade personality. and just, game to try almost anything.
Well, and I would think too, the fact that he was an inventor, it was almost like you had that ability. You know, when you're inventing something, it doesn't always go as planned. And you've had a lot of ups and downs in your professional life. So you probably have had perseverance that you were able to bring to work.
Yeah, I would say in relationship and in business, that perseverance is really a key, and it's one of the things that people forget from time to time. You know, somebody's not successful and they can't figure it out, but perseverance is really a key.
Staying along the lines of perseverance, you've had many struggles and health challenges. As I said, you lost Justin, who was the love of your life, and then you had struggles with cancer. Do you remember when you made the shift and decided that you would move forward and endure this grief and pain and not let it take over you?
When Justin died, I had just he died suddenly of a heart attack, and I had just had major surgery, actually a life-threatening surgery, just 4 months before, and I was not in great shape, and having our relationship, how close it was, I actually wanted to die. I wanted to be with him. It's not that I wanted to give up on my life, but I just, more than anything, I just wanted to be with him. And I remember just aching to kind of leave my body and be wherever he was. And but it was the look in my children's eyes. They had just lost their father, and they knew that my health was fragile. You know, they were shaken by my cancer diagnosis. And it was that look that really kept me tethered. And I've got to be there for them. They were all in their 20s.
Right.
And yeah, so it was that.
And I think that's what, you know, in my own life, in a very short period of time, within 6 months, my 23-year marriage ended, my mother died, my sister died. And I understand what you're saying, because I too was at a point, it wasn't that I wanted to die, it was that I didn't know how to go forward. But I had children. And what you're saying, I think that it can be a key for many people, is to figure out that one thing you can focus on that can help you move forward. And then from there, things do get better. You don't see it at the time, but it does happen.
That's right. And it doesn't, I wouldn't necessarily ever say to someone, well, you know, you have to find someone else to live for, but you do, finding your passion.
Right.
A reason to get up in the morning and get excited. And sometimes it takes a little while, as you know, Joan. It takes a little while to kind of figure it out. But eventually, you find your passion. And for me, beyond my children, once they, you know, were married and became adults, they're almost 40 now. The youngest is almost 40. Then that passion did shift into being a impact investor, and really investing my time and energy into regenerating the earth through business and society through business. But whatever your passion is, it doesn't matter really.
Right. It's that focus. It's to have that focus on something.
Yeah, exactly.
And one of the things I learned from all of the grief, I learned to start to pay attention to signs. I'm now such a firm believer that I can see something and just know that it's someone I love that's trying to tell me something. Have you ever experienced anything like that?
Absolutely. Actually, Justin had an amazing sense of humor, and it showed up the day after he died. I was tucking my daughter into bed, into the place where he usually slept, and she had arrived that morning, and we were talking softly. And from across the room, about 10 feet away, I had a little fountain that had pebbles in it. And as we were talking with each other, a pebble came flying across the room and landed at my feet. And Holly and I looked down at the pebble, looked at each other, looked down at the pebble again, and just, incredulous. And she just softly said, "Hi, Daddy."
You just knew.
We knew. I mean,
Yeah.
we knew. And then the next day, much funnier than that, there was a hairdryer, a wall-mounted hairdryer in our bathroom that Justin absolutely hated because he would hit it with his elbow, and it was the kind that when the nozzle was disengaged, it would go on. Like in the hotel room sometimes you would find hair dryers like that. And then so his elbow would disengage the nozzle and it would go off, and he would have to hang it up again, and he just hated it. But I liked it because I used it, right? So the next day that hair dryer broke. In other words, it would go off, and it would turn itself off and on at will. And what I noticed is, and what other people noticed, when I was really deeply in grief and really upset, the thing would go off and the motor would just go wild. And then as I calmed down, the motor would calm down and stop. And so clearly that was him. And it was his way of saying, "Hey, I'm here. I'm here. You're okay. I'm here." But what a sense of humor that he would choose the thing that he hated to say hello. I think that most people, when I ask them, "Have you noticed anything happening after your beloved died?" And most people say yes, but they also say, "I've never told anyone." And one of the reasons I talk about the hair dryer and the pebble and other things in the book is to help normalize this in our society, because it's helpful and it's comforting to see the signs and feel the signs and feel the love and the connection.
Bonnie, we're experiencing so much pain and loss with this coronavirus pandemic right now. There's, sometimes it just feels like there's death all around us. For someone who's experiencing profound grief right now, what would you say to that person?
First, I just want to say, my book is full of stories. It's not a how-to book. But through the stories, whether they're my stories or someone else's stories, that to take courage and know that you can get through this, and that the journey of grief, this is not easy to hear when it's so raw, but the journey of grief can be a transformative experience, an alchemical experience. It can change you in ways that are extraordinary, and you have no idea. And my encouragement would be to embrace that grief, because it's when you embrace it and when you really just let it take over that it's like diving into a deep well, and it's black and it's dark and it's scary. But when you dive deep, that's when you can find the golden pebble at the bottom, the gift at the bottom. And so that's what I would encourage people to do.
Bonnie, had I not gone through all of those things that I described to you before, I would not be doing the work I'm doing now. All of this is the result of that period in my life. And I was in my early 40s at the time.
That's right. And you allowed your losses, the three great losses in your life, your mother, your sister, and your husband leaving. You survived those losses and let them change you and allowed them to change you.
And like you
which
said,
is a gift to yourself in the end.
Like you said, Bonnie, when you're in it, you don't see that. But when you allow it, it does happen. It can happen. So that's the hope, that I want everyone to hold on to and to get from your story, the story of love and perseverance. And it's something that we can all live.
Yeah, we all have it in us.
So, Bonnie, tell us about the work you do with Meyer Family Enterprises.
So with so Justin and I sold Silver Oak just a number of months before he died suddenly. And so I was 52, and that was a moment. His death was a moment that changed things forever, as you well know, John. And so I became an instant investor, and in an instant, I was a fiduciary. I had all these trusts that we had, hypothetically created while we were alive, together. All of a sudden, came into play, and it's not a role I wanted to play. And again, I was like an accidental investor. And for a couple of years, I just listened to advisors and did what they told me to do. And after a couple of years, I realized I had a very balanced, very boring portfolio. And I was more excited about the money I was giving away to very innovative nonprofits. And so I decided to start investing in social entrepreneurs with my whole portfolio. So I'm what they call now an impact investor, and some people use the term regenerative investing, which means that I invest in things that help regenerate society and the earth. And also I'm also a regenerative farmer. I live in the middle of the vineyard, and we do things that help the soil recover and become more and more alive. There's a flock of goats and sheep who are arriving in our vineyard tomorrow, as a matter of fact, in a new old way of weed control. And by doing that, instead of disking the vineyard over and over, it helps the soil actually regenerate itself.
The book is Perfectly Paired. Bonnie, where can our listeners go to get more information about the book and your work?
I have a couple websites. Bonny Meyer, BonnyMeyer, BonnyMeyer.com. My business website, I can learn a little bit more about my investing, and that is mfenterprises.com.
Bonnie, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your story and some of the lessons that you've learned.
You're so welcome. It is my hope for everyone a wonderful relationship and a transformative experience through grief into new life.
This is Conversations with Joan. Until next time, thanks for tuning in.